So I have to say, I have two things right now. One is the hook comes so early. Have two things that are going through me right now. One is amazement that you're all here and want to hear anything that I have to say. That's one thing. The other one is, a little bit nervous, and so it might take me a little bit of time to sort of get into it. But once I start talking, I'm not going to stop until the hour is up. Okay. So today I wanted to talk about what I think is the proven strategies that will make you successful in this business as well as in life. And we have people here that are fairly new to the business, that people that have been around for a long time, people that are super highly productive, people that are growing in their business. So it's really hard to make a presentation to all of you that is absolutely personal to where you're at right now in your business, but I'm going to try my very best to do that. So as we start, I'm going to ask each of you to take a moment and write down at the top of your note sheet one thing that you're hoping. Why are you here today? What are you trying to accomplish by being here today at this class? It could be the free food. It could be that. Okay. But my question is, what is your purpose for being here today? What are you trying to accomplish? If you thought about it and you know, just go ahead and write it down. If you don't know, take 30, 45 seconds or so, think about it, and then write down your answer. And we're gonna have silence until then, like we're all doing that.
I thought it was the form says I'm here.
That's okay.
But I'm going to break. No.
I'm watching the red. On the time. Yeah, this is an important part of what we're going to be talking about today. Is what the intention is to be. So today we're going to talk about a lot of things that are pretty traditional to the real estate business. If you have gone over your notes at all, you see that we're going to talk about things like lead generation, expired listings for sale by owners. We're going to be talking a little bit about branding. We're going to be talking a little bit about sales skills. And we're going to be talking about personal development. But we're also going to try and tie all of those things together. And so as I was thinking about this presentation, one of the points that came up to me is, for the last 40 years, I've been going to classes that talk about lead generation. I mean, how much can you talk about lead generation in 40 years? You could just talk about it. And why would you ever want to talk about it again after you've been in the business for 40 years? It's an interesting question. So I'm going to ask, this is a participation class, I'm going to ask our new fellow right here. When you hear the word lead generation, why would you want to learn about lead generation? Why would that be important to you as a brand new agent? Okay, and it's brand new to you, isn't it? Okay, good. Okay. Who's been around here the longest besides me? John, why would you want to hear anybody talk about lead generation today?
Because it's constantly changing.
Yes! You are correct. Absolutely correct. Things are always.
Chill in the audience.
I'll give you that cash later. So pretty interesting. So things are constantly changing, and we need to understand these things in order to be successful in our business. So let's start a little bit with the traditional real estate things, and I'm going to start talking about lead generation. Early on, I was told, hey, you need to generate leads, and so I started studying what people talked about. And back then, if you see in the paragraph that I have under that section, there was a guy named Tommy Hopkins, and Tommy Hopkins taught the phrase, STP, which stood for See the People. Now, Tommy Hopkins was doing lead generation in the 70s when you could knock on doors, and he worked in a primary home market, and that's what they did. They didn't have cell phones then, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have answering machines, and so they would knock on doors and he would introduce himself to people, and that would be how he would talk with people. When I started in the beginning in 1986, I came to Big Bear. Is there a problem with door knocking in Big Bear? What's the problem? They're not home. So I didn't take the training from Tommy Hopkins and go start knocking. Well, actually, that's not true. I did knock on some doors and found out it didn't work really in a hurry. Okay. So I did the next best thing, which is with the absentee owners, I started calling people. And I was able to reach a lot of people in a short period of time because, again, between 6 and 8 o'clock at night, people would answer the phone back in 1986. Do they do that now? Things constantly change. And one of the things that I read early on about lead generation back at that time was that I only needed to know a few things. I needed to know if I had the decision maker, the person that can say yes or no to my offer, and if they wanted my service or if they were thinking about my service. So my script when I first started was ring, 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 I'm gonna go with Tara, you answer the phone, ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, is this Tara?
Maybe.
The answer is yes. I'm not the decision maker. And I would say, have you sold your home in Big Bear yet? And you would say,
No, not yet. I haven't met a qualified person.
have you been thinking about it?
I have.
Awesome. Okay. So I have the decision maker, and I asked a question that sort of prompted them to tell me the truth. She told me the truth. Well, I haven't sold it yet. Who's calling? I would get out of that. Who's calling? I'm an agent that works in your area. Oh, okay. Are you thinking about selling? No. And I'd say, thanks for your time, and I'd hang up. It took me 30 seconds to use that script. I could make 40 or my contact goal was 40 each night that I called, and I could do that in an hour with that script. Can I do that today? No, things have changed. But it's important to understand that in lead generation, the primary principle, foundational thing to know is that we need to talk to people. And the principles are the same. You need to have a decision maker, somebody that can say yes or no, and you need to get an honest response from them, which is a lot harder today than it was in 1986. I'll agree. Okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can do lead generation for sale by owners. I think expired listings is the best way to do it, and I've shared this before, is that there are already people that have identified themselves and said, yes, I want to sell. They've already identified themselves as somebody that's willing to sign a contract. Okay? That's better than a for sale by owner that says, I want to sell. They have identified themselves as wanting to sell, but they have not identified themselves as somebody that is willing to sign a contract at that point. Okay? So here's where it gets important for us to think a little bit further with the proven strategies, is that if things are often changing, or always changing, knowing that the principle is that we have to talk with people. What are the things that will work for us today? Texting, calling, communicating in the way that people do.
Social media.
Social media. So there's all of these different ways to do it. How do you know whether you're getting an honest response to it?
When they respond to you. Well, they engage with you.
Yeah, if they engage with you. I asked that, I don't have the answer to that. I mean, I'm just being honest with you, I don't have the answer to that. is, we get a lot of people now that are, it's what is called cocooning, is that they're hiding behind their email, they're hiding behind their text, they're hiding behind their social media, they're hiding behind their voicemail. I mean, you can reach out to 1,000 people and you're gonna get a response of probably 10% of people that actually reach him. When we originally got answering machines, the purpose of it was because people wanted to call you back. They wanted to know who called when they weren't home so they could call you back. Now, when they're home, they don't answer the phone because they don't want to talk with you unless they want to talk. So it's changed the dynamics a little bit. Some of the other things that are pretty traditional, cold calling, farming, and infotizing. Does anybody have a good description of what infotizing is? Has anybody heard that phrase before?
Advertising the information that will through a perspective.
That's a good definition of it. I'm surprised that nobody's heard that before. Infotizing is giving information out that makes somebody curious enough to call you for more information. So a lot of the things that you're seeing today with social media and with the videos, people are providing free information to the public in hopes that the public will be so enamored with the information that you're providing that they will call you when they need to go to the next step. Make sense? Some of the things we've done some videos on YouTube that we did some years back about what are stop and waits valves. We were trying to provide information that would be helpful to buyers in hopes that they would contact us when they had additional questions that we could answer. Here's where the big problem is with lead generation, is that there's a lot of rejection in talking with people directly. The cocooning that they're doing has eliminated some of that rejection, but the more you're willing to engage with rejection, the stronger your message is going to be. And I know a lot of you have heard this is sort of repetitive, is if I go up and knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I'm a realtor, would you like to sell your house? And they slam the door in my face and say, get out of here, your mama wears army boots. People are rude sometimes.
Or Tennessee a gun.
Yeah, or that walk back from the front door to your car is really, really long after that kind of rejection. I mean, it hurts to get that kind of rejection. When you call somebody on the phone and they scream at you and hang up the phone, that rejection doesn't feel very good. But if you send them a mailer and they don't respond to you, they're rejecting you exactly the same way. It just doesn't hurt as bad. Except it hurts your pocketbook. When you do social media, you don't know whether people are engaging in it or not. I mean, they can be rejecting. It doesn't hurt. And so the one thing that is really important, this is a foundational principle about lead generation, is that if the activities that you're choosing to do don't allow you to experience rejection, you need to rethink it. If you're avoiding rejection, that's harming your business. Questions on that? Thoughts on that? I have a really good friend that is no longer in Digger that sold real estate here. Good salesperson, good likable guy. And whenever we would go somewhere, he had a lot of interests, and I won't name what those interests are because you'll know who it is if I were to tell you all of his interests. But he was so friendly is that he would talk with somebody about a common interest and he would give them his card and say, I'm in real estate, and if they wanted to do a deal, he was hoping that they would call him. So his method of prospecting was to find a common interest and then give his card hoping that they would call him. And what I tried to teach him and what I'm trying to teach all of you is to gain the confidence to be able to go out and talk with somebody and make your sales pitch to them about your business. And be so confident that if they say no, that you don't feel rejected, that you realize that they just don't need your service at this time. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm not going to talk any more about that. Is there anybody honestly in here that says, you know, I really don't want to be rejected, so I'd rather do the other things? No?
It doesn't hurt.
Well, it hurts me. I'm sensitive, but you have to overcome that. You have to overcome it. I mean, I hate rejection.
I just go practice by ear, move on.
Social media, they're pretty brutal on there. I have people beating me up on listings that I posted on there. Other people in the office come up and say, wow, I can't believe how you handled that whole mean person on there. They're mean.
So the principle of lead generation is you have to talk with people. You have to be decision makers, and you have to ask them if they're interested in the service that you provide, and be willing to take a yes or no. Mike Ferry taught me is if they say no, it just means they don't want your help right now. It doesn't hurt. If they scream at you, it hurts. If they say no, it doesn't hurt. It is a numbers game. Second thing I wanted to talk about today was branding. The definition of branding is a mix of tangible and intangible attributes symbolized in a trademark that can be managed to create value for organizations and customers. It is the physical representation of a company's offerings and values that can exist subjectively in a person's mind. When I read that part of the definition, it reminds me of the Coca-Cola symbol, or the Apple symbol, or the FedEx package. Real estate's a little bit different, so a lot of that part doesn't really apply as much. Now, there are some of us that have created logos for our business. Some people have done, they've gone to the task of doing that. But that's not really what your brand is. What your brand is the experience people expect from you when they see your name, when they see your logo, when they hear somebody talking about you. It is the sum total of your professional or personal, it's the sum total of your reputation. That's what your brand is. It's not the logo, unless the logo makes them think of what they expect from you. I would think that there'd be a lot of questions about that. So let me go a little bit further into this thing about your personal brand. If you call someone and they don't call you back for 2 days, does that affect the way of what they expect from you? If you show up for a presentation late, does that affect the way they perceive you? If you come to a presentation and you are not prepared, does that affect the way that they see you? Yes. If you come to a presentation and brag about yourself the entire time and don't ask them about themselves, does that have anything to do with the way that they expect you to be? So my point is that every single thing that you do is going to affect your personal brand, because the person that you're interacting with professionally begins to have an idea of who and what you are and what they can expect from you from every single thing that you do. And then the people that they go talk to within their network, they hear those things, and that's what they're going to expect from you, if they call you. Mark was a really nice guy, but he was late. So they're going to think I'm a nice guy and that I might be late. Okay? That's going to be what your personal brand is. The thing that really concerns me the most about when agents decide that they want to build their brand is they don't realize that it's not the logo, and it's not all of the marketing that they do. Marketing of your business is getting the message out, but the brand is what they're expecting. Does that make sense to everybody? Has anybody ever made any mistakes in the brand? Reputations can be built over time. You know, it's interesting is that if you're going to build a very, very powerful brand, it takes time. takes integration, it takes consistency. And I'll give you an example, a personal example. I hate talking about myself, but it's the only person I can talk about, okay? Because it's my experience. Is that I remember, I can't remember exactly where I was, and somebody's, this is probably 20 years ago, somebody said, we see your signs all over the place. And Mike Dolan had more signs than I did, Tim Woodbrook had more signs, there were a lot of people that had more signs than I did, and I was going, I wonder why. And I realized it's because there were some things that I did that were consistent across a lot of different things. Every single mailer had my same high school photo on it. Every for sale sign had my same high school photo on it. Every website had my same high school photo on it. I mean, everything was consistent across all the marketing that I did. The photo and the advertising and the font size, all of those things were consistent upon all the things that I was doing. So it really wasn't that I had the most signs, it was just that they saw me the same every single place that they saw me. So it's important to make sure that your marketing and your brand and materials, your marketing materials, have a consistent message that's there. The principle underneath branding is that everything that you do is going to either support the brand image that you want your clients to have with you, or it's going to be in conflict as you're not sure. See, I wrote down Walter Sanford. Anybody heard that name, Walter Sanford? Yeah, Walter Sanford worked in Long Beach, was a mega agent. I think he's a trainer now. He might be even retired now. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I saw him, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I saw him in a seminar he was talking. But, to be a client of Walter Sanford was almost like a feather in your cap for people in Long Beach. I mean, and it wasn't because of his marketing that everybody wanted to work with Walter Sanford, it was because of his productivity that they wanted to work with. It was the way he operated his business. It was the experience that people had when they worked with him. That's why it was a feather in his cap. Far too often people try to market a brand that doesn't deliver. That's a mistake sometimes. And I'm not saying don't market yourself, far from it. What I'm saying is make sure that your marketing is accurately reflecting what it is that you're doing in your business. So we're going to skip over branding, and we're going to talk about sales skills. So I learned this, there's about 20 different things that Mike Ferry talks about with sales skills, and so I'm going to read the definition. Sales skills are the characteristics and competencies that sales representatives use to help customers make purchases and solve issues. These skills can help companies build and strengthen relationships and customers, generate repeat business, and attract new customers. The other thing it does is help you build a strong brand if you have really good sales skills. By far the most important sales skills you can have is the ability to actively listen to your customers. One of my friends who was a lender was managing people for a period of time, and his lending agents would come to him and say, I've got this problem with a client, and here's what I said to them. Here's what I told them. And my friend Ken said, I already know what you told them. What did they say to you? What does that mean? The answer to solving your client's problem doesn't reside in your head. The answer to solving your client's problem resides in the problem that's in their head and the solution that you provide them. How can you possibly solve a problem for a client if you're not asking them what that problem is? So really good communication skills, I've learned this from marriage counseling, is that, you have this process where one person talks and you let them finish. Anybody been in marriage counseling? Don't answer them. But you let somebody talk and you don't interrupt them and they tell you what's going on. And here's one of the biggest problems is what they say and what you hear sometimes is not the same. And so the next move that you're supposed to have is to repeat that and clarify to them, is this what you need? Is this what you need? Now, I wouldn't parrot back what they said to you. You're really mean to me and you hurt my feelings. Are you saying that I'm really mean to you and I hurt your feelings? I might want to say, well, it doesn't feel, the way I'm interacting with you doesn't feel good to you. You want to repeat back to make sure that you understand the real message that they have. And you can apply this to a sales situation, too. And once you clearly identify what their problem is and they know that you understand them, then you offer a solution to them and then confirm that they understand what you meant by asking them a question. Great communication is what salespeople are. They're great communicators. Mike Ferry's definition of selling is the ability to influence others. Real estate has traditionally not been known for being strong in sales skills, but it's so important. Each of you as a salesperson, whether you think you're trained as a salesperson or not, you're trying to sell your spouse on where you go on vacation. You're trying to sell your kids on eating their vegetables before they eat their chocolate cake. We're constantly trying to influence the behavior of others, and they're trying to do the same thing with us. So it makes sense to study the ability to communicate well with others. There are other things that are sales skills that are helpful. Your ability to prospect, to use scripts, presentations. I go back to 2009, 2010, Mike Ferry was teaching everyone to go to acting class. Anybody ever heard that before? Go to acting class as if you're a real estate salesperson. Why would he say that? Remember, this is an interactive class. Why would anybody say that?
Because it gives you time to practice it.
Gives you time to practice.
Step outside yourself.
There's the actress in the group. Why?
There's lots of impromptu stuff, just questions back and forth, other ways to, because you can't take this meeting where unless they say yes, and you have to keep it going. And you have to listen to what they're saying. Keep it info.
Yeah. So it helps you to think on your feet. That's one.
Get into the role.
Get into the role. What role, by the way? What role are you playing?
The salesperson.
Yes! I love that. Yes, Mario.
Because there is a lot of psychology.
There's a lot of psychology. Okay. So the favorite thing that, or the least favorite thing that Mike would hear when he was trying to teach his scripts, people say, Mike, and you guys have heard, if you've listened to Mike, Mike, does that sound like Mike? Mike, that's not who I am. And Mike would say, well, who are you? Your client expects the professional salesperson across the table from them. Who are you? Are you a musician? Are you a pickleball player? They want a salesperson. So why don't you play the role of a salesperson? That's a huge, huge lesson to remember, is that you are a salesperson and you should be playing that role when you're with your clients. So he talked about acting classes. The other thing that I like to share, and I know Sarah, I shared this with Sarah before, is that in 1997, as I was writing my goals for the year, I asked myself, what's the one thing that I can do better this year that would make the greatest impact on my life and on my business? And two things. One was to save 10% of my income. I recommend that to everybody. The second thing was to go to Toastmasters, to improve my ability to communicate. I was afraid to do it. The first time I spoke at a Toastmasters meeting, I stood up in front of everyone, I got lightheaded. There was like this dark circle that closed in the middle, you know, where I could actually see was blurred. I don't know how long I talked, maybe 2 seconds, or 20, 30, 40 seconds a minute. I don't know how long I talked. But when I was done, my hands were clammy, I was sweaty. And I thought I was the biggest puke that had ever stood before a group of people in my life. That's how I felt. It's a lot like I shared with you, I played those 3 songs, 8 years ago in front of a bunch of people, and I blew them all. I sucked. But I didn't die. So do things that suck that will make you better where you don't die. And you will get better. See, this is the secret to success, is to grow. It's not a script, because the script's changed. It's not the method that you prospect, because the method's changed. It's not the computer program that you use, because the computer programs will change. It's your ability to grow and adapt. Laura?
I was just saying that we got a bracelet at one of the sync, presentations, and it said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. One of the things I do have, I don't like to pretend either, so I work through that. And it's not easy for me to do it.
Very first sales book that I've ever read was a book called No Bull Selling by a guy named Hank Tristan. No Bull Selling by Hank Tristan. You can find them on Amazon and used bookstores. I don't think they're available anymore. No Bull Selling by Hank Tristan. Hank Tristan. It's the most fun book. If you like to read and you start reading it, you'll finish it the same day. I mean, it probably takes 3-4 hours to read, but if you like to read, it's so exciting that when you read through it. And so many of the foundation principles that I've learned about this business and about selling came from that book. And the one thing that there were 2 things that I'll share about that book that makes sense to what we're talking about today, is that when they were training new salespeople, and this is back in the 70s, Hank would bring the new people that he was in, and he would say, okay, your assignment is to call 50 people you don't know out of the phone book. You have to call 50 people out of the phone book that you don't know, and we're going to give you a script. You can choose which script you use. You can be selling vacuum cleaners, or you can be selling encyclopedias. But your assignment is to call 50 people that you don't know. And he would say after 4 or 5 calls, getting yelled at, screamed at, rejected, some of the people would say, I quit, I'm not doing this. And he would say, good. Why get into a business where you can't handle rejection when rejection is part of the business? Why would you get into a business where being uncomfortable is part of the business? If you're not going to be able to fight through that, you shouldn't get into business. That's what you're talking about. The second thing is then if they said, sure, we want to buy the encyclopedias, you still lost because they weren't selling encyclopedias. So they really lost in that story. The second thing that he made out of that particular story is he said that the people that were going to last started talking back to the people that were yelling at them on the phone. Now think about this. You call and you're going through your script and somebody starts yelling at you, and you respond, hey, no, I'm just here trying to help you. No, my mother doesn't wear army boots. Come on, I mean, be nice to me. They would start talking back, and they were not broken by the rejection. So you want to be able to do things that make you uncomfortable, because if they don't kill you, they will make you better. So Toastmasters is a good thing. The other part of it is that if you go to Toastmasters and you learn to speak in front of people, remember that selling is influencing thought. 35? See, I have the ability to sell 25 people on my ideas right now because I'm comfortable standing in front of a group to talk. Would you rather sell 25 people at a time or 2? Which is gonna be more profitable? Yeah, think about it. Or 500 people, or 1,000 people. Think about that. Any questions? It hasn't been as interactive as I'm looking for.
What's the girl's name?
Hank Trisler, Trisler.
And it's a no goal.
No. It is absolutely, it is a classic, it's a classic book on stuff.
Yeah. Should be this much after.
What's that?
Should be this much after.
I should be, well, you guys aren't taking naps, that's true. Okay. So before I go into the personal development part, I mean, these are traditional things that you hear about in a sales training presentation. You can go to a seminar and they'll talk about prospect or lead generation, or they'll talk about time management. And we know that it changes. And we know that everybody is different. So it's really hard to give you the answers for what you should be doing. What you should be doing, what Mary should be doing right now, what Evan should be doing right now, what Nikki should be doing is all different because we're all in a different place in our careers. We're also in different places with our family life and everything. So, I'm going to digress a little bit. Dan and I were talking a little bit yesterday about one of the things Dana said to me a year and a half ago. She said, all of the motivational speakers and all of the trainers have books. They have intellectual property and things that they sell, or they have available that sort of gets them in the door. They write a book and they go and then they go and they speak behind the book. And I don't have a book. I started writing a book last year and I didn't like it. And I still read books every single day. I'm reading every single day. And every time I read a really good book, I think that book is so great, I couldn't write a book that good. So why in the hell should I write a book? Every single thing that I have shared with you today, I have learned from somebody else. If it wasn't Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry or Tim Wood or Jim Rohn or my insurance agent Jerry Talk. Life is a place where you can learn from everyone. You can learn from everyone. And so I asked myself, I scratched my head, I said, well, why, with all of these great books out here, why don't I just say, go read the Jim Rohn book, or go read the Hank Trisler book? Why would I write my own book, which is just everything that they do? And here's the answer, is that I don't know that I'll ever write a book. But here's what I'm good at. I'm good at looking at what's happening around me, and the good ideas and the good information that people provide to me from all of these other areas. And I'm very, very curious. I'm always listening and paying attention and watching what people are doing with their teaching. And I have the ability to find out what the fundamental underlying principle that's successful about their idea is. Does that make sense? I learned about clear communication from marriage counseling. I applied it to sales. You can do that. I learned about branding in other things, and I applied it to, especially the thing about having everything to be cohesive and to be supportive, so all of the messages are the same. I learned that about branding and implemented that in my business. You guys can do the same thing. The other thing that I have the ability to do is to take those ideas and explain them in a way that is understandable to people and that they can actually apply to what it is that they're doing. So I don't know that I'm ever going to write a book, but I might continue to talk about the things that I learned. So I want to share that with you. Go ahead.
You should write a book because just like music, not everybody loves the same artist. So if your genre is like country, but it's real estate, people might not like, certain country singer, but then like another. So you might have a good message, and some people get a lot of people that like that because they don't like the other person's message. It's just a little too much, So I think you should still give it a shot.
I'll keep my thinking cap on.
And
I'm also a little lazy too. I'm so busy reading, I don't want to take the time to write.
I'll add to that, maybe your book should be things I learned from other people.
Actually, good one.
Yeah, now that's a good one. Yeah.
I wrote a book 30 years ago called Retail Sales. I did that because Crosses was really on fire. We were in a position when we opened the business where we pretty much were the very first factory to you. So I wrote this book because I was teaching salespeople. And I was pretty much basically saying everything that you're saying today. I don't see a difference because sales is sales. The things that you talk about, especially with communication and understanding, and by far more than anything else, listening to the other person. You're asking those questions back so that you understand what they're talking about. I would tell you that in marriage counseling, 90% of the conversations that husbands and wives have together where they fight, they don't really know what the fight's about. They think they do, but as soon as somebody puts up a wall where they're not listening to you anymore, they're not hearing a word you say. And I think those things that you have said are just extremely important. By the way, I never had the book published. I still have it at home, and it's 40-some odd years old. So write one. You look at it and go, wow, that's different, or that's different.
Have you
Especially
re-looked
for me
at
today.
it?
What's that?
Have you re-looked at it, and is it still
Constantly.
applicable? Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we read it?
I'd be happy to do that if yes, I could do that for you.
Okay.
So, I have to, it was with some apprehension, that I entered the class today because I still, I have these things going through my mind, which is why would, 30 people want to hear me talk for an hour? And I still don't know the answer to that other than I've been around a long time and learned a lot of things from it. And what I wanted to share with you is that I took to heart messages that I learned from other people and urges that they have. Jim Rohn made a comment, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work harder on yourself, you can make a fortune. I took those things to heart. And, so the next topic is about personal development. So I want to share some ideas about personal development because I don't think I'm special. I'm just old. The truth is that for 40 years, I've had a real estate license, and for whatever reason, the passion and the excitement that I've had to survive and to thrive and feed my family, I've had people that have guided me along that process to get me where I'm at today. And there's hundreds of authors, there's all kinds of people, and there's things that they've taught me, and it's this quest for personal development that has helped me to get there. One of the things that, and it really changed when I came to work for Timberland. I had a little bit of success. I was young and dumb and energetic and, would work hard, amongst all of my other young and dumb problems that I had. But when I came to work for Tim, I found a mentor that sent me on a direction. That I worked alongside that took me in a direction. And I was introduced to Jim Rohn, who's got just a wealth of information. And so I had never been the same since that time. And, as Jim Rohn would say is, once my mentor got me ignited and got me fired up, that fire has never gone out. It's waned a little bit, there's been tough times in my life where things have waned a little bit, but that fire has never gone away. And I think the point that I want to make is that if you make a dedication to personal development, that your life will continue to grow, and you don't have to be Tim Wood or Mark or Jim Rohn or anybody else. In fact, you can't be me. And you can't be Tim Wood. But I can't be you either. So this morning I woke up at 1:30 in the morning, which is 4:30 Tennessee time, because guess what? I get up at 4:45 in Tennessee, which is really early for you guys. And when I woke up this morning, 4:45, yeah, 4:45 my time, this is 1:45 your time. is what I think. And this morning when I woke up, I was thinking about the apprehension that I had coming into today and the self-talk that I had this morning at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I was envisioning this presentation in my mind. And I got excited because I love this business. And I love this life that has been given to me by this business, by all the people around me. And if there was anything that I could share with you today is don't sell yourself short. Put yourself into it all the way. For those of you that have little kids, they're not going to be little all the time. You know, same thing. You know, those kids aren't going to be little all the time. Yeah, they won't be little all the time. Okay? You're exactly where you're supposed to be in your life, in your business, right now. Where you're at right now is where you're supposed to be. And if you adopt the idea that I'm right where I'm supposed to be today and it's going to get better, and you adopt this philosophy of personal development every single day, someday you're going to be old. And people will listen to you for whatever reason. Okay? But because you've done the work, you will have all of that life experience to share with others. Tim didn't have to share what he shared, but he did. Okay, so all I'm doing is sharing what was given to me for you to let others repeat. So let's talk about personal development. Early on I read, if you read 1 hour a day in your chosen field, in 20 years you will be a recognized expert in your field. What's the problem with that? It takes 20 years. It's a long time. You know, it is by far the most important proven success strategy because, and you guys have seen this, you know, I was the top agent 25 years ago, and that's what I put on my business card. I mean, what good is that today? What good is that today? You know, Jim Rohn made a comment in one of his talks. He said, you know, a lot of people will praise him and say, you know, you're great. And Jim said, you know, I work on my craft every day. He said, because what I want people to say is, I heard Jim Rohn 10 years ago, and he was really terrific. But you should hear him now. You should hear him now. Man, the guy doesn't miss a trick. He's up on his craft, he's learning, he's growing. Okay? That can be you. And that can be me if we continue to grow and do the things that we're doing. So here's a great quote from Peter Drucker, and this is very timely for our business. It says, an entrepreneur always searches. An entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. Is there any changes going on right now that might be a little troublesome in our business? Anybody afraid of the changes we're going through?
No.
Some people are lying when they say no.
No.
Well, some people are lying when they say no. Maybe not you, but there are people that are really not comfortable with the changes. Well, my question is, are we searching for change? Or are we responding to it? Or are we exploiting it for the opportunities that it provides for us? You like the third part? So is there anybody that is willing to share what they plan to do with these new changes with the forms and the buyer brokerage and all of that they think is a way to exploit the change?
For me, what works is confidence. When I have confidence, I can project that confidence. And the only way that I can gain that confidence is by knowing, truly knowing that I know the market better than anybody else. So when I talk to people, I project that. And just the way I do my business, it causes positive reactions. So that works for me.
Okay. And so how do you gain the confidence to project it to other people?
By constantly feeling that I know the market very well.
And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because it's not the wrong way, and this isn't, but I'm gonna share something. Of all of the people in this room, who do you think calls me the most with questions? Mario. That's a good thing. Why is that? Why is that a good thing?
Always learning.
Because he wants to know what's going on. He wants to know how to handle things. What do you think about, I mean, I don't think that Mario does everything that I suggest to him. I think he does a lot of the things, but I think he's naturally curious, asking people, how would you handle this? 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 And when he finds something that he thinks that will work for him, he owns it, and he projects that confidence to the customer. That's a great answer. You don't feel bad that you call me the most, do you?
No.
Because I do.
Actually makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Was that a challenge?
Well, I'll tell you.
I opened that can of worms. I think there are people that don't want to call me because they don't think that, that they think it's going to be a nuisance. And it's not. I prefer having a text saying, hey, do you have a minute? I prefer that. But if I can answer it. So this whole idea of personal development is the key to success. And so we started off talking about traditional things that we hear in real estate, whether it's lead generation, time management, doing presentations. We talked about all those. Talked about branding, we talked about sales skills, but we know that they change. And so we need to change along with them. And so the ongoing education that you adopt is the way to take all of those things and own them, make them better, and be creative. So here's the main message that I wanted to give you today. Is that you guys know the principles, right? And this is what you're trying to accomplish. There's something else that you need to do. You need to find out what the customers are expecting. What are the customer expectations for the things that you're doing? And I'll give you real life examples. They don't expect you to cold call them between 6 and 8 p.m. at dinner because they're not going to answer the phone, it's just going to go to voicemail. That's not how people are expecting you to reach out to them today. It's changed. The social media marketing and the infotizing that we talked about, there's a lot of value in providing information for free that makes them curious about contacting you for something more, because you really want to talk about it. So I'm going to digress a little bit. So being creative and finding something that is going to catch somebody's attention. About 30 years ago, I realized that I got 0 listings for properties that I didn't go on a presentation for. Here I said, I was 0 for $1 billion on the listings that I didn't go on a presentation for. So my goal was, how do I go on more listing presentations? So I could advertise, I could beg people, hey, but I came up with something else. I came up with a coupon, and at the time it was a $20 coupon. And I mailed out, I want to say 500 of these $20 coupons to people and said, I'm a professional real estate agent that works in your area, and I realize time is money. If you will grant me a 30-minute presentation when you're ready to sell your Big Bear property, I'll pay you $20. And I sent it out. It might have to be 100 now. Would you make money if you did that even at $100? Yeah, you would. So the first week I sent it out, my average sale at the time was about $135,000. I got a $500,000 listing the first weekend. And it sold 2 or 3 weeks later. So I was pretty happy with that program. Okay, I mean, I went on a lot of listing presentations and paid out $20, and I think I got almost every single listing that I went out. But I gave them a reason to interview me for the job. And I think the thing said, even if you already have another agent, if they'll interview me for the job, it's in your best interest to get a second opinion to make sure you don't make a mistake, and they'll pay you $20. And I was fine with that. Okay, I did really well with that. So here's how you make real estate fun. Maggie Kilpinski, I'm working with Maggie Kilpinski at the time. This is going to be just slightly off. So I'm at the coffee machine with Maggie, and I said, "Hey Maggie, you want to see my secret weapon?" No. I think you all got the point. Okay. But there are things that we do that are so unique that they will create value to people, and they will build up. That program only lasted for about a year and a half before it didn't work anymore. So when I was saying you need to find the underlying principle of every single thing that you're doing in your business, understand what the underlying principle is, understand what your client's perspective is. In this case, they were willing to interview me for $20. You've got to find a creative way for them to interview you. I don't know what those customers want. You should survey people and ask them, what is it today that would cause you to interview me for the job of selling a home? And then try it. Okay? The third thing is to make sure that what you're doing is a unique selling proposition. You guys have heard that USP unique selling proposition. Some years ago, they were doing advertising at the movie theater. There were a couple of real estate agents that were on there. It was $100 a month. I did that. You know, it worked great. I mean, but I was doing a lot of things with the same picture, a lot of things with the same message. I was doing all of these things together. And I did that program for about 4 or 5 years, and I went to the movie theater one day, and there was 37 real estate agents advertising on the movie screen theater. So I got rid of it because it wasn't unique anymore. It was a waste. So find out what the underlying principle intention is of the actions that you're doing in your business. Find out what your customers want related to that, what will resonate with them, and then make sure that your offer is unique. Okay, so we went over the quote. We're getting close to wrapping up. We talked about the fundamentals of the business. We talked about things change. You have to be creative. Survey the clients and find out what their public opinions are. Create a unique selling proposition. Those are the key to success. Those are the proven principles. What worked 20 years ago will not work today. It's got to be different. It's got to be current. So I'm going to ask you to do this right now, because remember it's interactive, is you wrote at the top of your page what you were hoping to accomplish today. And I want you to take a moment to write down 1, 2, or 3 things, no more than 3. What did you hear today that made sense to you that you were not expecting? What's one thing that you heard today that you didn't see coming? That you think you might be able to do something? Get my forms class, but I got to We'll be talking about the forms framework.
The forms class is Friday morning.
We're going talk about it at the sales meeting. The long class is gonna be on August 14th, but we're gonna talk about some of the fundamental stuff tomorrow. The changes are gonna be effective tomorrow. So do we have any questions before we wrap it up? So here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. I'm gonna ask you to reflect on what your intention or your purpose for coming today was. Compare it to what you actually had happen over the years. If you want to share it with me, share it with me. If you don't want to share it with me, that's fine. But the most important part of the whole exercise was the winning formula for success is that you try something with an expectation of results. You try it. You send out a mailer, you do an advertisement, you use a script, and you try something. You have an expectation of what the result will be. And after you have done the experimentation, then you write down what your results are. What actually happened. The next thing you do is that you reevaluate, retool, come up with a different intention or modify your intention, upgrade your intention, and you try again. Over and over and over again. If it works, you keep doing it until it don't work anymore. And if it doesn't work, you modify it, try something different. So hopefully you all found something of value today. Look forward to seeing you all Friday morning and also at the picnic on Saturday.